Good morning and welcome to Art Transforms Us for our last segment in May. What a full month of creativity and community it has been here for us. My name is Shika Arbuthnot and I am the Development Director at Path with Art. Today we are going to draw with scissors in a lesson taught by Path with Art teaching artist Celeste Cooning, and we will be joined by Path with Art artist Margie Litt. Before we move forward, I invite all of our guests pie was once stewarded, harvested, and protected by Indigenous peoples. I am in San Francisco, and I acknowledge the Ohlone. I would also like to pause for a moment and to recognize the lives that have been needlessly taken too frequently, too consistently, and too systemically, and to speak the name of George Floyd. At Path with Art, we provide a robust program of arts engagement opportunities for adults in recovery from homelessness, poverty, domestic violence, mental health, and substance abuse, amongst the many traumas that impact all of our lives. We believe that art and creativity, painting, writing, theater, singing, all have a transformative effect and a profound effect to reconnect with oneself, to build bridges to community, and to navigate a path to stability. Art Transforms Us has brought us together with many of our longtime friends and has welcomed many new friends. Thank you all for being with us here today. Please know that this month, and especially today, we are asking you for your help in keeping these critical programs running by making a gift to Path with Art on our final days of our spring fundraiser. Now, in the belief that art can help us heal the wounds of heartache and inequity, I am honored to welcome teaching artist Celeste Cooning and Path with Art artist Margie Litt, who are here with us today. Celeste has a dedicated studio practice centered on cutting paper. She is best known for creating large-scale and yet ethereal installations. She has exhibited widely in galleries and in performative collaborations. Her work encompasses integrated art seen in storefront windows, city parks, special events, and the stage. Margie Litt is a longtime Path with Art artist who has taken many classes with us. She was a collaborator in our Found fashion show last fall. She sings in the choir, and she has also participated in many other mediums here at Path with Art. Welcome, Celeste. Welcome, Margie. It's wonderful to have you both here with us today.
Good morning.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
How are each of you today? Margie, you're in the Path with Art studio and gallery. Yeah. How are you, Celeste?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Excited to be here with you.
It's always fun. This is our last one in May, so this is a very special event. Celeste, before we jump into your lesson today, describe your practice and your medium a bit more, paper and scissors. Tell us more about it.
Sure. Well, my formal training through schooling was actually in figurative drawing and painting, and I came out to Seattle for graduate school, and in the midst of that, I had this fascination with pattern and ornament, and I had some sort of impulse to pick up a cutting tool. I'm actually more comfortable with an X-Acto knife. You can hold it, very similar to a pencil. But the fascinating part for me is what happens when you start cutting paper and it comes off the page, and then it has this potential to consume space in a variety of ways. So it's this exciting realm between drawing and sculpture that really keeps me going. Here's a detail of an installation I did in collaboration with Zoe Juniper, a performance dynamo here in Seattle. And this particular backdrop was from a production called Begin Again that you can actually access through the On the Boards streaming services.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to see that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Margie, the work you have done and the classes that you have chosen at Path with Art have had some similarities, working with fabric, found items, and books.
Excuse me. Yes.
Tell us.
With the found fashion thing, I didn't do too much. I just did like little details, like for the crown for one outfit, you know, the painting and glitter and, you know, retouching that type of thing, you know, and other little detailed things for the outfits. I didn't do too much on that, but I was there.
Yeah, details can be a critical part of
The finishing touches are key.
Yes, yes, the finishing touches. Yes. And
the book sculpture class, correct, with Victoria Raymond?
that I really should have took a picture and framed it. It's somewhere here, probably at the office here, at Catholic Arts office. That was pretty interesting. I've never done anything like that before.
What are some of the materials that you use to create the book sculpture? It started with the book, correct?
It was the book, and we started off taking certain pages, folding in different directions, adding on buttons, beads, feathers, almost anything you could think of. And also, there were a bunch of keys. I put those in there also. And then at the end of the book, I put my 5 brothers and me. And people say, why that? Because, well, before all this, it was my 5 brothers, myself, my mother, and things like that. So, yeah.
I'm one of 6 as well. 3
Oh, really?
girls. Big fan.
But I also have a half sister. I didn't know until, I don't know why we say half, but anyway, by different situation. And she, I forgot what I was going to say. I have like 2 birth orders. I'm like 5th in line of my, you know, with my brothers, you know, and then I become 6th in line because there's my half sister.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
So we can definitely find a photo of that sculpture. I know that we're gonna have to share that, put that up on our website or something.
I mean, if I was the teacher, I would ask staff if I could bring it a couple of times.
Absolutely.
You know, back in, and she was saying that would be I mean, I can't even talk. It would be kind of difficult to do that, you know, online. I don't think so if you really think it out.
Oh, because you're taking an online class right now.
Yeah, which is choir on Mondays, Tuesdays the art, the collage painting.
Beautiful. And are you accessing that with a tablet, correct?
Yes, with the tablet.
Did you have a tablet before, or did Path with Art help
This is my first time ever using a tablet.
Very cool. How is that for you?
Uh-huh.
How is it using a tablet and accessing, like?
It's kind of funny. You got to be careful. I told a friend of mine, you're using Zoom, you better make sure you have some clothes on. Yeah, so when you go into the restroom, leave it in a different room. So don't take it with you.
A few techniques. So you are a professional, full-time working artist. Can you describe how art impacts your life now, in the past, and how it might have transformed you? Oh,
sure. I mean, I think I'm learning something new every day. Cutting paper has really expanded my practice into this and feel very grateful for the fact that, you know, one thing will lead me to the next. And in terms of art making, I mean, those are my earliest memories from childhood. And I specifically go back to times in high school when I would have a bad day, you know, for whatever reason. And I would find solace in the ceramics studio. Ceramics was one of my first loves. My aunt first introduced me to throwing on the wheel. And there's something about the materiality and really just making is meditative for me. It's the place that I can focus in, and it's my own world, and I can dream on the surface here.
Yeah, no, it creates a safe space often internally for oneself, and then I know that being in a community often of art makers can create a safe space. We were talking a little bit earlier, Margie and Celeste, about how art can keep you going. You know, when you feel like you want to give up.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
some fuel there.
Some fuel.
Yeah.
Do you think art making in addition to the people that are in the community and in the classes that you're taking?
I think so. I mean, even as whether it's as an instructor or as a student, I think what's really magical about making within a space with others is that you get to see how other people would do things, and maybe your neighbor's coming up with an idea that you had never thought of before, and maybe you're inspired by it, and then you put your own spin on it. So it's kind of this magical exponential moment of growth where you just kind of keep rolling through ideas and generating sometimes things that maybe you don't think are precious but might surprise you later. So I don't really like to get rid of anything. I keep like a little box of scraps off to the side.
Each other's inspiration.
Exactly.
Do you work in a similar way, Margie?
Some folks might think that I'm out of my mind, but sometimes when I see magazines, they're all through my building, right? And each time I see a stack of them, I'll run through them, take a portion of them. One night, I must have went through 100 magazines, took out certain photos, and I do plan on, once the art stores open again, get a very large canvas. I know I should have done it a long time ago. Somebody said, oh my God, those are like $200. It doesn't matter. And have others be collected, of people, to get together and whatever their soul feels, put it on this, and we'll decoupage it on to the canvas, hopefully. And
paint. That's a beautiful idea.
And because a long time ago, my son thought I was nuts. There were these 2 large closets in this house that I was once living in, and I had all these movie posters. It must have been over 200 of them. And I lined both of the closets with the movie posters. And I should have took a picture of it. It was hilarious. Yeah. Sometimes I get inspired to do stuff like that. And then there were a couple of magazines that had the late George Michael and Prince in it. So there's one corner of my apartment that has just George Michael and some of the people he dealt with. The very top of it, I have like maybe 13 little spots to cover, and then it'll be done.
George Michael and Prince. You're a singer as well, aren't you?
Excuse me?
You're a singer as well. You sing in the Path with Art choir.
I wouldn't call myself a singer.
One that sings.
I don't sing in public either, but I sing at home. But you sing on our choir, in the Path with Art choir, and you were at Royal Hall. You were sharing.
Yeah, I was hiding behind a couple of people, but anyway, yeah, it was amazing that we sang at the Royal Hall. I used to stare at it when I would stand at the bus stop and go like, sure, yeah, right. And there we were, on the stage, being introduced by the guy. He says, coming live to the stage, the Path with Art singers, and I was about to pass out, but I went out there anyway. And then there was one month, I guess it was about 2 years ago, we did a CD at Jack Straw's studio, just for fun. And people said, did you get paid for it? That's not the point. Is that we were able to take what we learned, our skills that we learned from way back and what we were taught, and put it out there. It was fun. So, yeah. And
Those
then
were beautiful projects.
Right. And then when it was the groundbreaking thing at the Seattle Center for the new building for Path with Arts in Plymouth, we sang a song, Fame. I thought it was getting on my nerves at one point, but it was okay. Because when we were, doing rehearsal, we sang that song to death. But it was for a cause, is why I didn't mind. Yeah.
Well, sometimes there has to be a cause that brings us out of ourselves.
Yeah. So we sang that one song up under the tent. It was kind of cold, and everybody, was just all crowded in. We did it, and then, dispersed. And we saw where the new building is going. And I hope and pray that it doesn't go under, but it continues to grow, because it's very necessary. I mean, it's so necessary.
We will continue to grow. We have a beautiful community. The two of you in our community, all of the people out there, all of our students that we serve. we will definitely continue to grow and provide access to the arts. Yeah, exactly. Provide access to the arts, bring back the moments that you just described of gathering all together at Benaroya Hall, at the groundbreaking, in a studio recording. It will come again, but right now we're lucky to be here virtually, to provide classes online, and to still connect with one another.
Yes.
Well, thank you both. It's really exciting. So we are lucky to have this moment and this morning to learn together virtually, to practice, to create. So I hope everyone out there has your materials ready and that your scissors are sharp. Because remember, if you have any questions, we're about to start our lesson with Celeste. And remember, if you have any questions during her lesson, Celeste will answer them if you put them in the chat after the class. So everyone, enjoy the lesson. We'll see you when we come back.
Hello, everyone from wherever you're at, in your living rooms, in your homes. I am so pleased to be here with Path with Art. It's been just an incredible experience to connect with students and people coming together to express themselves creatively. I'm very inspired by nature, and so a theme that I often revisit is this idea of the sea and the sky becoming reflections of one another. So it's part of what inspires me today to kind of conceive of some shapes that could potentially become symbols for other things. This is a set of shapes that you might see often in my own work, and although they're often sourced from botanical forms, they take on these kind of amorphic personifications. And so this theme of sea and sky, it's like they could be something closer to a fish or even a whale's tail, or some type of bird. I've heard at times hummingbirds or phoenix. So I just kind of encourage you to think of this concept of sea and sky as inspiration. And ultimately, you know, I don't have my whole studio with me right now in quarantine, and I think of artists are highly adaptable people, and I think that we work with our circumstances. And so I wanted to bring a lesson to you today that could be as simple as using computer paper, or even, you know, the side of a grocery bag, and ultimately scissors. And it might be helpful to have tape. Sometimes our things cut apart in unexpected ways. And maybe even some glue to start layering and create attachments. So to get started, ultimately, we're going to explore some symmetry. And so I'm interested in working on the vertical today. You could certainly work on the horizontal as well. But you'll just want to fold your paper in half, increase it, and then open it back up, and then fold the edges back into the middle. So one to the center and the second one to the center. And then fold that in half so you get this column-like structure. We're going to focus on building shapes and patterns along these two folded edges. So what I like to do is just to take the pressure off, just pick up your scissors and meander. Just kind of let yourself, you know, maybe explore some geometric shapes. So I'm going to start with some straight lines. You know, depending on how thick your paper is and the quality of your scissors, you'll notice that, you know, there's a threshold to how many layers of paper you can cut out at once. So I'm just going to go all the way down this folded edge here. Excuse me. And I'm going to alternate. So I'm very fascinated by pattern. And so I'm going to think kind of like a sketch checkerboard where you alternate every other one. And so I'm going to switch now to curvy shapes. So organic, more amorphic, unnameable shapes. And then back to sharp shapes. I've been really intrigued by the desert lately. And as we get into summer, just thinking about that hot heat. So I've been looking at art from different cultures that I think really start to feed into some of the shapes that I've been interested in lately. And then let's do another curvy shape. Maybe this one's oblong. And, you know, one of the fascinating things about working with folded paper is that you're going to unfold it and kind of maybe come up with some unexpected ideas. So on this other edge, I'm going to do some smaller repetitions. So these are kind of more like little ovals. Create some, maybe some fringes where I just cut, I don't cut the paper out, but I just cut a texture. And then maybe some triangles. I go through phases in my own practice where I'll get infatuated with something. And at one point, triangles were the thing, and it lasted for years. I just couldn't get enough of it. So they resurface from time to time. And so ultimately, I think the fun part is now that I've cut these two sides, you open this up and you get these repetitions of patterns. So I think what's fun is you might then start to associate, you know, some of these, this is more of a star shape, but you start associating them with other things. Also the potential to change the format, like what happens when you turn it on its side versus when it's up and down. I really like this shape up top for some reason on this top edge, even though maybe originally I thought of it like this. And really starting to think about like what these shapes could evoke, like what does this remind me of? How does it make me feel? For me, I'm very interested in making works that solicit joy. And it's something that sounds so simple, but I think is more and more and more important in our world today. And these ideas too of what happens if you maybe do like partial cutouts. So where in this middle here, maybe I want to fold these sections out in some way. You'll see that, you know, you'll notice that paper, I say paper has a memory. And so, you know, once you crease it, it's always going to have that memory. You'll also notice that when you work with paper that comes off of a roll, that it stays curly. So, you know, I encourage you to look around your home for other inspirations. This piece behind you is actually made out of plastic with paper coated tablecloth. I kind of get really excited about the 99-cent store. You can go through the party section. I encourage you to look around the house. You might be surprised that you have like remnants of leftover wrapping paper. I'm a sucker for shimmery things. I was able to get packs of this really kind of wild shimmery paper that also has a very neutral background. So I've been interested in using both sides of this. Perhaps you're interested in symmetry in a way where you just fold the paper in half. And then you get this new kind of dialogue going on. So what I've done, what I think the next step is with this, if you really want to kind of take it to another level, is asking yourself, like, maybe I just, like, I feel like in summer I just have to add color. And so a couple other ways that I've sourced color is kind of the necessity is the mother of invention, is paint swatches at the hardware store. You know, the world is your oyster. There's just every color you can imagine. I'm really intrigued by the power of complementary colors. So opposites on the color wheel really create dynamic color relationships. So yellows and purples, or even just staying within a monochromatic kind of color palette. And if you're familiar with my work, you'll notice that I use a lot of neutrals and I work in a lot of whites. And you can see a little bit on the screen here maybe that once you start really splitting hairs, that you'll notice that some whites are more yellow or some whites are more blue or possibly more pink. And so I get really fascinated by those subtle differences as well. Other things that I think are super easy to use and readily available are Post-it notes. They make them in all these sorts of fun colors. And summertime really beckons, I think, for these neons. And so you can start backing your cutouts with color. And this particular piece that I started working on, you'll see that when you work in symmetry, there's a tendency for us to see personifications. And so I start to see, shapes that can mimic a nose or a mouth. And these I kind of think is like little rosy cheeks. So all I've done here is I've taken Post-it notes and I've backed the shapes. If I want to, create something a little bit more, like say it calls for a smaller shape, I just, start cutting these smaller and start placing them on the back. The great thing about the Post-it note is it already has some sticky. Otherwise, I just love my Scotch tape. My mom would tell you this was my first art supply. and it's just something I had to keep track of if I wanted to use it. And so just adding color. As much as I work in white a lot, I think of myself as a colorist. And then also just maybe exploring even more, like maybe I want to go back into this at some place. I'm much more comfortable actually with an X-Acto knife than the scissors, just because I've been working so long. So this is great for more intricate designs. And I would encourage you to get something like the cutting mat. This is a notebook size, but they come in all sizes. Or just using a piece of chipboard. Anything as simple as like the back of a cardboard box. And maybe cut some more intricate details into this. One thing that I've been really into lately, so I've decided that this is my top orientation. I've been into making raindrops upside down. I think that, this is a place to dream and imagine. And so I've been into this idea of it raining, that rain goes up instead of down. And so I'm going to just add some little raindrops to mine. So now they're so tiny, but exploring scale as well. So maybe I want to take something like this shape that I discovered through my cutouts, and I want to repeat it, but make it maybe a bit larger. I could take another piece, I could fold it in half and just focus on central symmetry, maybe something more like this, bigger, more solid shapes, less intricate. And what I do with these what we call this the positive shape, and then the cutout, this becomes then your negative shape. I then take these stencils or these templates, and I could recreate this shape along the edge of my paper. And I could either trace it with a pencil. I like to just kind of go straight in, and I'm going to make it slightly bigger, so I'm going to work a little away from the edge, but use this shape as my guide. And this shiny paper is a bit thicker, so I might have to go over it a second time. And so then you can see that it's slightly larger. So you can explore with repetition of shape and also changing the scale of your shapes. So as mentioned, I I really like this shape. It kind of reminds me of an oak leaf, or like a different interpretation of an oak leaf. But then when it's mirrored, I almost start to think of like moose antlers. And so I'm gonna fold this back up, and I'm gonna put this shape again on the edge. I really only need maybe one side of it. And I'm gonna cut this out again. And see, my scissors don't like this thick paper, so I'm gonna go back to my X-Acto knife. Sometimes just best to use what you're comfortable with. I always say there's just one rule when using the X-Acto knife. Well, okay, 2 rules. Always start with a fresh blade. That will make your life much easier. And the other rule is pay attention to your non-cutting hand. You always want it behind your tool. So I'm cheating a little bit using the knife instead of the scissors, but whatever you have handy. And you know, some might say, oh, we're cutting paper, so it's like making snowflakes. And you know, the exciting thing about cut paper is it actually spans traditions across the globe. People started cutting paper back in 200 BC when paper was invented in China and Japan. And some of you might be familiar with papel picado. It's a Latin American tradition. There's Polish traditions. Hans Christian Andersen, the children's book writer, would cut paper. I'm kind of coaxing this along because the second layer is more scored. And so I'm kind of trying to coax it without ripping the material. But then, yeah, then these ideas of what happens when you open it up. And I kind of think of these somewhat like the structure of a totem, where images start stacking, and kind of asking myself, what happens if I start adding them together? You know, this is almost like similar to a mirroring of the other. And then because I just love color so much, I've just taped these paint swatches to the back to create these images. I also think it's just fun and daring as a painter. I'm like, ooh, let's break the rectangle and have this shape come up and over. You know, working with shimmery backgrounds, but then also asking yourself, like, what happens to this image? How does it change when I back it with something else? So a sharper contrast with the white. So I hope that this has been fun for you. I think the exciting part for me is with paper is that the possibilities are endless. There's so much potential. You know, some people ask me, like, well, what's the difference between cut paper and collage? And I would say, initially, cut paper is really about a more reductive process. So you're thinking about taking away. It would be similar in practice to, like, say, like carving wood or carving clay, as opposed to adding and building. But I do think that there is a realm of where cut paper and collage certainly intersect. And I really resonated with Margie talking about looking through magazines and pulling out inspiration. Some of the most vivid color you'll find is in magazines, and that glossy texture of the paper. And I think that when working with paper, if you are going to work with adhesives, then a glue stick is really good. You'll find that it doesn't wrinkle as much. I'm just constantly fascinated by color and shape, and the power of symbolism. So I hope this has been a fun lesson for you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Cool.
Thank you, Celeste. That was wonderful.
That's awesome.
I'm excited to see all of the paper drawings that are going to come out of this that people will share.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So Celeste, some questions came in, and I hope you're okay with answering them. Let's see. Question. Okay. What has been the impact of creative practice in your life?
Oh, I think that it feeds into everything I do. I think that adaptability is definitely a big part of being a creative, and resiliency. I think that doubt is and self-doubt is a big part of the creative process, and it's something you kind of have to get over, kind of as a hurdle, and kind of find ways to circumvent, which really mostly just comes from working through it. I often talk about being a process-oriented artist, and some people would be like, well, what's that mean? And it's really just a fancy way of saying that, like, I figure it out as I go along. So like yesterday, I started cutting out shapes, and I wanted to keep them, but you might imagine that all of a sudden your table looks like it all looks the same, and you don't know what's precious and what's not. And so I just started taping them with little pieces onto another piece of board so that I could keep them and know where they existed. And that was just a system for working a little bit more efficiently. So
I love that. That's like the opposite of the lesson that you just gave, the image that you just showed.
Exactly.
Positive, forward.
Mhm.
Okay, let's select another question. Okay, so I'm a social worker from New York. What should I tell my clients regarding why they should try engaging with art? I would love to hear answers from both of you. Margie, are you comfortable with answering that?
Oh, I don't mind. It takes you to a different place of goodness. You're able to reach in deep and bring stuff from yourself that you didn't think you had, but it comes. In my mind, everybody's an artist. Our God is an artist. So that makes us artists. Our creator, then we're artists. Get it? Okay. I got bad jokes this morning. But let me get serious. We're all artists. It takes someone to help guide us to tap into it. If that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah. We are all artists. It's up to us to create,
Right.
like try and create the best, to create the best that we can.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, let me see if there's any more questions coming in. Okay, one more from Margie. Margie, what is your favorite art to make?
Oh my God. Decoupage. I guess you could call me a paper addict. That doesn't sound right. It's just something when I look through pictures in magazines, I start dreaming and I just start putting it to, I paper mache many things. I'm not paper mache, I'm sorry. My nerves are a little off this morning. Collage. When I was a kid, there was a lady, I was in a Big Sister, Little Sister program. She had introduced me to making collage and decoupage and stuff like that. That's one of the main things I like to do. It's time consuming, but it centers you as well. If that makes any sense.
It does.
I think that when you say decoupage, what comes to mind is this idea of going between 2 and 3 dimensions. I think that the fascinating thing about decoupage is, pick an object and you could, cover it in textures and colors.
Right.
And so it brings the everyday object into a place of elevating it into art.
Where it
and
lives
also,
forever.
yes, that too. Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question for Celeste. Have you ever made a paper cutout sculpture?
It's funny. I do make paper sculptures, and in my painting brain, I still think of them as drawings that take form. But one of my biggest to date paper sculptures was actually out in Occidental Park in Pioneer Square. And people think, did you make that with paper? Like, what happens if it gets wet? But I actually have worked with this material called Tyvek, which I think most people are familiar with, covering the sides of homes and buildings before they put the exterior surface on. But it's this polyethylene spun fiber that's very strong. And so I've really tested its threshold. And I've had these sculptural works out in the landscape for 2-3 months at a time. So it's been a really exciting way to integrate this world of paper into kind of boundless environments.
Beautiful. So, okay, we have one last question, and this is for Celeste again. Do you ever fold the paper in 2 or more directions?
You certainly could. I mean, I think that the best part about art is there really are no rules. You can make rules up for yourself and then you can break them. So it's refreshing. In my personal practice, I don't fold paper a lot. I mostly cut it. So the folding is a realm where I'm like, oh, maybe you want to fold it on the diagonal. Maybe your paper isn't square. Maybe it's round. So I think that there's just room to explore. And in the Japanese tradition, origami is the art of folding paper. And then they call the art of folding and cutting kirigami. So that could be another entry point for people in engaging in that realm.
Beautiful. Margie, it looks like you're creating something.
I'm just being messy. See?
Repetition.
That's gorgeous. Wonderful. Well, okay. So during this series, Art Transforms Us, we've been asking our guests for a creative prompt to inspire all of us for our own practice. Margie, would you like to share a prompt with us today?
Could you repeat that again, please?
We've been asking our guests over this last month of Art Transforms Us to share a creative prompt with everyone out there that can inspire them to create their own work. So would you like to give us a prompt today?
There's an artist in every last one of us waiting to get out.
So let that artist out. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, Celeste, thank you for sharing your practice and your lesson with us.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome. I would love some of your artwork on my wall.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be happy to. We can trade about that. Do an art trade.
Yeah.
My favorite.
That'll work.
A good way. Well, thank you both, Margie. It's been wonderful having you. Celeste, it's been wonderful having you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your beauty and your participation in our community. Yes.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
As the world grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic, we at Path with Art have been proactive and have transformed our in-person classes to an online curriculum to ensure access to the arts for our community. As part of this, we have provided our students with tablets, digital training, and free internet for those who need it. Our students are often living on the edge, striving to find stability. As disrupting and frightening as we all find this pandemic, there is no question that for our most vulnerable community members, a crisis like this can have even more severe consequences. We need your help to continue providing creative engagement, opportunities, access. Your financial support makes all the difference for people working to recover from trauma. Please make a gift by clicking the link above in Facebook or by texting. Every gift makes a difference. And thanks to our generous match fund donors, all gifts $250 and above will be doubled, and all gifts at $1,000 and above will be tripled. Please join us in taking advantage and part in this generosity. In closing, we would like to thank Business Air as our presenting sponsor and all of our sponsors for your generous support in underwriting Art Transforms Us. We are wrapping up our May launch of this campaign. And all episodes of Art Transforms Us are available online at pathwithart.org. Please, after this, take some time and see the beautiful episodes that have been shared for the past month. We're so grateful to have had so many people participate from around the world. We've put together a video of these international voices. This month has been evidence that we're still all deeply connected through art and our virtual community. Please continue to share your videos on how art impacts you at hashtag Art Transforms Us. Keep in touch with us at Path with Art as we continue innovating new ways to stay connected, to share our programming, and to share the work of our artists with everyone here.
Rome and the Spanish Steps.
My name is Selena and I live in Singapore.
Hi everyone, we are from Dubai.
I'm from Madrid.
From Moscow.
Scotland.
Antigua, Guatemala.
Florida.
From Lima, Peru.
Hi, I'm Mattia and I live in Singapore and I'm 11 years old.
Los Angeles, California.
It's Beth from Liverpool in the UK.
I live in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Seattle, Washington.
Karachi, Pakistan.
In Botswana.
In Ethiopia.
Art has always inspired me.
Art makes your life creative, and whenever I do art, it makes me happy.
I think art is really important because it speaks to our subconscious.
Art is just a way to express your emotions and feelings.
Just realizing that there are no boundaries, realizing that expressions are limitless.
I did a trip across America to research arts and homelessness projects. Met the fabulous Path with Art, and that to me signified what art is, which is community and connectedness and the best of what we are as human beings.
It made me appreciate the beauty in everything that I see around me.
Some of the art I appreciate my mom's painting of flowers. She died more than 20 years ago, but I keep it here in my office.
We can come together to create something meaningful and have fun in the process of making art together.
Art allows me to see and feel the beauty in life.
Art makes my life meaningful because it inspires me to go places.
For me, art is just something to get my mind off daily rat race in corporate America and just enjoy life.
I love the creative process, the process of starting with an empty page or canvas or screen and chipping away at an idea or a feeling.
And it's the art pieces that my children make, and for me they're special because they're happy, you know, they're expressions of their happiness.
So my name is JJ and I work at Path with Art. Our most vulnerable neighbors are more isolated than ever, and our organization provides meaning, creative engagement, community.
And art has made my life more meaningful because it allows me to tap into a more creative side.
Art feeds us all.
Art transforms me in the way that I can express myself through music without being judged.
It also reminds you to do what you love and love what you do.
I was involved with Path with Art with their music classes, and I had fantastic teachers that were able to open my eyes.
Music and art has the power to bring us together in community, to lift us up, and to transform us.
Art can take you to paths that you will discover in the process.
We can all relate to art, whether it's music, writing, poetry. It tells a story, and it is therapeutic, it's healing.
For me, art is everything. I mean, I couldn't live without art.